Hello, and I'm on my Mac computer today, and I'd like to show you a little bit about how to control your soft synths using your MIDI controller, and we are going to get right into it using Arturia's V collection, and we are going to learn the basics of how we can have more expressive playing and be able to quickly change anything we want from the controller rather than using a mouse. So we bring up the Moog, and what we find out is that if we click here on the right little gear wheel and we click on MIDI, these are the MIDI controls that are already assigned by default, right? So we can see that these control change numbers here on the left are assigned to these parameters here: general volume, resonance filter, cutoff filter, and so forth, all the way down. So this is the default MIDI control that's set up for this, and each of the vintage synths is going to have a thing like this. It's in the MIDI. If you click System, Settings, MIDI, you will find a default for each of them. Now let us consider whatever MIDI controller you want to use. Your MIDI controller may have, if it's inexpensive, static assignments for each knob, button, or slider. If that is the case, then the best way to get your MIDI is to use the MIDI Learn. Notice we have a MIDI Learn button here that we can click, and we're going to show you how to use the MIDI Learn to change any of these or add any new ones that we might decide that we want to control with our MIDI controller. So basically, when you use MIDI Learn, you are adjusting the software to match whatever the MIDI controller puts out. If you have a MIDI controller that you can easily program, like the Roland A800 Pro or its A500 or 300 Pro, then it's better to change the MIDI controller to output these values that have already been specified, which is very easy to do if you set up your control map. You can set up a control map for each instrument, and you can make your control map match these. You can match the knobs, sliders, and buttons you wish to use to control these parameters, and then you don't have to use MIDI Learn. You just switch to your control map and you are controlling your synth. So that's the first mechanism that we can use to establish some sort of control. Now when we click on MIDI Learn, we see what is assigned and what is not assigned. Everything that appears red is already assigned, and everything that appears purple is to be assigned. So the MIDI Learn is perfectly easy to do, because if we click on a purple one, let us suppose that we would do that here for one of these oscillators, and let us suppose that we wanted to map that to whatever our MIDI controller happened to be putting out at the time. Let us see how that would work. If we click on the controller and we rotate it, it turns red, and when we unclick the MIDI Learn, if we turn that, now notice that as I'm turning the knob on the controller, the oscillator frequency there is changing on this particular oscillator. So it has learnt it as if you have used the same CC that is assigned to something else. Suppose the CC that you MIDI learned is the 73. We already have, say, the 73 turning the attack time. So now your one knob is controlling two things. So if you don't want that to happen, then you need to use the add control one down here to add a new control, and that will work. Let's see how that works. If we click on add control, we have all the various things. We get a list of all the various things we can control. Let's assign a joystick X and see what happens. Notice as we rotate the knob, one of the joystick X's turns to red, and when we click that, it disappears. Okay? So now the joystick is assigned to 10, as we can see here. You have basically two ways to control your parameters on the soft synth. One is to do the MIDI learn and just click and adjust. The other one is to add a control and then pick another control and then do the MIDI learn with that. Now when you're done, you'll obviously want to save it. And you'll want to save your control changes to do that. Now you notice here that we have our MIDI configuration is set at generic, but the generic has a little asterisk next to it, right? So what you would want to do is save your current configuration as, and you could type in something on your keyboard like demo. I'll put in demo here. Demo configuration, CONFIG, and I'll say save. Now next time when I see here, I have renamed my current configuration to demo configuration. And when we go there, we see that under user configurations, I have demo configuration. If I want to go back to the generic default configuration, which is the one before I started doing any MIDI learn or making any changes, then I simply just click on here, generic default, and notice it's back. All of our additional MIDI learns have disappeared. Now, if I want to keep, I can set up as many users as I want. If I want to go back to my demo configuration, I go back to that. And notice that I've got a slightly bigger configuration here. And for any of these configurations, I can export them by clicking on here, and I can say export current configuration. And when I click on export current configuration, I have demo configuration dot module MIDI. There's a different one after the point for every single V instrument that I have, so that we can have as many configurations of as many instruments as we want. And this is basically nothing more than a text file that shows our MIDI assignments. Suppose we wanted to save that somewhere else on the computer. Let's save it in our April here, and we click on save, and that's done. It's a done deal. So thank you for watching this brief introduction to MIDI control in your soft synths, and we hope that you have already purchased your V collection. If you have not done that, we will show you some more pictures later on. And thanks for watching. See you in the next video.